Good evening. I'm calling the Monday, March 25th, 2019 Planning Commission meeting to order. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. First item on the agenda is the approval of tonight's agenda. Do I have any requests for changes? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Agenda is approved. Next up, approval of the minutes from the meeting held Monday. What's that? Oh, sorry. Yeah, you got to. All those in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
Aye. All right, pass. Agenda's approved. All right, next up, approval of the minutes from the meeting held on March 11th, 2019. Do I have any requests for changes or omissions? 2.0. All right, entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. All right, moving on, the first public hearing and the only public hearing tonight is variance number 2019-01. Location is 15363 Masons Point Road. This is a request to permit a retaining wall and land alteration 82 feet from the ordinary high water level from Red Rock Lake. City code requires a 100-foot setback. Permit land alteration and vegetation alterations within the shore impact zone. Will the proponent of the project please step forward? Good evening.
Evening.
Would you mind stating your name and spelling it for the record and tell us about your project, please?
My name is Jake Schneider, J-A-K-E, last name Schneider, S-C-H-N-E-I-D-E-R.
Great. Would you mind telling us about your request?
Yeah, I have you want me to put the PowerPoint up right now?
That'd be great. Thank
Sure.
you.
Okay, so this project's gonna be done by us, and the PowerPoint that I have here is just to give you kind of a good overview of the scope of the work that's going to be had. I also have here is our hired engineer, Ron, with Vickery Engineering. If you have any questions regarding the retaining wall or its construction, I'd like to refer those questions to him.
Great.
So I'm going to start off here with a few pictures. The first one is basically the state of the property right now. As the overgrowth, we would like to remove that overgrowth and any approved trees. After we do that, we're going to bring in new plants, shrubs, flowers, mulch. We're going to put in a new stone stairway, as well as a few outcroppings and some boulder walls. Our next photo is of that stone staircase. You can kind of get an idea on where the property is at for its overgrowth. The retaining wall is at the top of the hill. This next photo will show the retaining wall itself. You can see the separation of the retaining wall block. As well, you can take note the distance between the retaining wall and the footings for the deck. This will show a different angle. Again, you can take note that the distance between the retaining wall and the footings. Our project schedule, if we get this approved, we will remove all approved vegetation and approved trees. Like I said, we'll bring in a variety of plants, shrubs, flowers, mulch, with the outcroppings and a few boulder walls. Each section is going to have, there's going to be 2 sections of silt fence that are going to go in towards the lake, and 3 sections of biologs to help with any erosion that may or may not take place during or after the construction process. Here is a diagram that's going to show where the silt fence is going to go and the biologs, and those will be done in increments as our construction is done, starting at the bottom of the slope, moving up towards the top of the slope. You can also see the squares that are on the screen. Those will show where the outcroppings will. They'll be a minimum of 5 feet apart, as well as those boulder walls. This shows our plant design. Each circle has a 3 to 4 letter abbreviation that will be shown on the next screen, but we like to put in this many plants to really get a good root structure for this hill so that will give way to any erosion that may take place. And then a little hard to see, but those 3 to 4 letter abbreviations you can see on the right side of the screen there, those on the left column are the kinds of plants to be installed, as well as any native or non-native species. 75 to 80% of all plants to be installed are native to Minnesota. And that is all that I have for you.
Thank you. Any initial questions for Mr. Schneider? Yes.
Sorry, I'm not too familiar with all the landscaping terms, so could you explain what a biolog is?
A biolog can be filled with a styrofoam or a mulch product, and those are staked into the ground. So if any mulch were to give way, any dirt or soil were to give way, that biolog is going to catch that so it doesn't roll into the lake shore or into the lake itself.
About this big, kind of a fabric around them. And
Yep.
Center, and you lay them down, stake them in. It's a barrier.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have an initial question. From the Google Earth photograph, there appears to be a small dock-like structure on the water. How will this project impact, if at all, that dock?
It shouldn't impact at all that dock.
Is it something that you would be using?
No, it is not.
Okay. Does the city, a general question, Julie, is there a 10-foot easement along the shore of Red Rock that is owned by the city of Eden Prairie?
I can try and take a stab at that. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, there is a small portion on the eastern half of city-owned property. It's actually Red Rock Conservation Area, but there are other parcels on the lake that own all the way up to the lake shore, into the lake, and are permitted to have docks.
Any other initial questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie, will you be speaking on behalf of the city on this?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, as was stated, there are 2 variance requests as a part of this proposal this evening. One is to allow the construction of a retaining wall within the required setback of the shoreland area, as well as to permit the vegetation or land alteration within the shore impact zone. So the shore impact zone is that first 50 feet extending landward from the ordinary high water level of the lake. Staff has reviewed the request against the criteria that are provided for in city code as well as in state statute. Those criteria, mirror one another, and staff finds that the request is in conformance with all of the criteria necessary in order to grant the variance this evening. The applicant has requested the variance, and as a part of the staff review, there are some conditions of approval that staff is recommending in order to address the erosion potential, the sensitivity of the property adjacent to the lake, as well as the plantings and the process for installation of those in order to ensure not only that they survive, but that they thrive in their natural environment. So, as I said, staff is recommending approval of the variance, and I'm happy to answer or try to answer any questions that you might have.
Did the homeowner have any concerns about what the city proposed in the plans?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, the homeowner as well as their representative have worked very closely with the city in reviewing what these conditions of approval are and in preparing a vegetation plan. So to the best of my knowledge, there are not any concerns.
Okay. Questions for the city? Yes, Commissioner Minty.
Could you explain what is triggering the variance for the shore impact zone? Is it anytime anything's done to the zone, or is there something about this that is triggering the variance?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Commissioner Meddy, anytime there is land alteration that is to occur in the shore impact zone, that requires that it be handled through a public process. So because there is, I'm going to for lack of a better term, call it wild vegetation that has taken root within that area. In order to remove that vegetation and replace it with more appropriate and native landscaping materials, there is a need to go through this variance process.
And one other quick question, is the existing retaining wall, and maybe this was in the staff report and I didn't quite get the details on it, but is the existing wall non-conforming?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Commissioner Meddy, the existing wall is non-conforming. It does not comply with the required setback, though it is in consistency, if you will, with the neighboring property owners.
Thank you.
Yes.
Julie, the city code has a schedule for when watering is allowed. There's an every other day, depending if you're an even or an odd address. Is there an exemption for ground under construction?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Commissioner Villarreal, yes, there is an exemption for newly planted materials because, of course, the city wants to see those continue to thrive and take root, so there is an exemption for that.
Thanks.
All right, not seeing any other questions. This is a public hearing, so if anyone would like to step forward and speak for or against this project, please do so now. All right, seeing none. Want to close the public hearing or have further
Move
discussion?
to close the public hearing.
All right, do I have a second to close the public hearing? Yes, second. All those in favor of closing public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. Any further discussion from anyone?
Maybe I have a question. I don't know if this is a question or a comment, but just so I'm understanding this right, there's going to the silt fences will be there. That's not just a temporary for construction item. That we will physically see, like, black fencing or what's. I don't know if I'm asking you guys or
Yes.
them, but.
Would you mind just come back to the microphone, please?
Until the plants take good root structure, which was going to take approximately 1 year.
Okay.
So until that time, they will stay in place.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
No further discussion. I'll entertain a motion. Oh, yep.
One question.
Commissioner Sanctus.
I saw that a copy of the variance request was sent to the DNR for review. No comments have been received. What are we to assume about that?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, as a routine matter, anytime a variance request is made that impacts the shoreline, the city is required to not only send them the plans, but send them a notice of the public hearing. And in my experience, the DNR very rarely provides comment. They simply want to be notified. In fact, if the commission were to take action this evening, part of the city staff's responsibility will be to notify the DNR of the outcome of this evening's meeting. So it's more of a tracking mechanism per se than exchanging of information.
I guess I have a question. Maybe we didn't get a chance really, except for the quick presentation, to see much about the vegetation plan. I assume that staff, Matt, potentially your group has looked at that. Could you just comment on that from your impression and perspective on that?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, the planting plan that they provided has a good variety of both native plant materials and also, I wouldn't call them native, but more naturalized, that are really good plant materials to use on situations like this that root fast, have deep root systems, really do a good job of holding that slope in place. And so it's a good mix, good variety. And
Are there going to be any tree, I won't use the defined term, but trees of interest or significance that are going to be impacted by this?
No, and so if you look at or can see in the staff report, we're definitely going to be working with the homeowner to make sure that any significant trees or any larger trees that are beneficial, that we can save those, do trimming, do any type of thing, and try and minimize the tree loss.
Super, thank you.
Just to add on the subject, are any of the trees being removed being replaced by equal amount? Or what's
Mis-
the net, tree impact on this?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I don't remember exactly offhand, but yes, there is like I mentioned, a good variety of plant material being replaced for any trees that are taken down.
Good. Yep. Any further questions, or someone want to make a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve variance number 2019-01 based on the content of staff report dated March 20th, 2019, and plan stamp dated February 11th, 2019.
Second.
All right. I have a motion from Commissioner Farr and a motion to approve as well from second from Commissioner Kirk. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, project's approved. Good luck. Thank you for your presentation tonight. All right, moving on this evening, do we have any planners report?
No, sir.
All right, any members report? All right, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, do I have a second?
I second that motion.
All those in favor of adjourning say aye.
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 We're adjourned, thank you.